Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Roundup. My name is Dylan, and today we have another special guest on. His name is Arlo Armstrong. He is the director of Phoenix Drum and Bugle Corps, all the way out in Arizona. Welcome to the podcast, Arlo.
Thank you. New Mexico, actually.
Oh, New Mexico. My apologies.
No problem.
So, what got your start into music and marching arts?
Well, my parents were heavily involved in drum corps, both of them. So I pretty much grew up in the activity. I started marching in DCA when I was 6 or 7 years old. Started in the honor guard for a couple of local drum corps, and then worked my way into the front ensemble, then out into the battery, and then into the horn line.
Oh, very cool. Okay.
I've been doing this for going on, I think, 34 years now almost.
Wow, that's awesome. That's crazy. So, you are the director of a Soundsport group. Can you explain a little bit more about what the mission and goals of your drum corps that you have?
Sure. What we strive to do is be probably one of the most affordable and accessible drum corps experiences you can get. Um, we strive to keep fees absolutely minimal. We strive to keep time commitment, financial commitment as minimal as possible to allow accessibility to more people.
Okay, what are the fees that you guys have? How much
For the
are they?
last 2 years, our fees have been $150.
Oh, wow, that's great. Okay. And then what is the typical rehearsal schedule for you guys?
Well, see, now that's where we're a little bit different than most drum corps programs. We proudly use our motto, "Drum corps done different." We actually send out music in the spring and the summer. We send out practice tracks. We'll even do video assignments, and everyone works on their parts at home separately.
Oh,
We
okay.
actually only get together during the week of championships in Indianapolis. We get together for maybe a day or two before championships and put the whole package together.
Oh, wow. So you are part of Soundsport. Can you go into what Soundsport is?
Soundsport, for me, the way I've always approached it, and I know everyone's philosophy is a little different, it's kind of unique because uh, there are drum corps that are petitioning to go into open class or all age. So they may be touring even like on a part-time basis. They have a longer show design. They they're gearing up to make the transition to the big field. Other groups, may do something totally different. A couple of years ago, we brought out an ensemble called Molotov Cockatiel, which used only plastic instruments
That
and
was a cool
played
show,
a
by the
ska
way.
book. So something totally different. We actually called the program, and I quote, "We are not a drum corps." Because
Nice.
that's something that's unique about Soundsport is, like I said, we have full-time drum corps style units that are getting ready to go to the field next year. And then there's groups, like us that get together for just a couple of days, and there's alumni groups. So for me, it kind of reminds me of growing up when, you had that dirt track racing out in the country where they had less rules and it was kind of more like a run what you brung kind of style, you
Hmm.
know? So yeah, that's something that's unique about Soundsport.
That's cool. So, what makes it special to you, being a participant in Soundsport and a director in Soundsport?
For us, we're all about entertainment. We try to play things that we think the audience will enjoy, things that we'll enjoy working on and practicing, because we want it to be fun for the members and for the crowd. We take an approach where entertainment is the top of the philosophy. We worry less about scores and rankings and more about what kind of response we get from the crowd.
Oh, very cool. Um, how many members do you guys typically have on a given year?
From year to year, it can vary a little bit. We generally have about 2 dozen. You know, Normally we had a little bit of a rough year last year, and we were pretty lean, but we're looking to grow again this year. So For a lot of people, not to get too into the weeds, but we were a small group to start with. And so you can imagine if you only have, say, 15 to 20 musicians and five maybe have to have surgery,
Oh
for
wow.
example,
Okay.
that takes out, 25% or more of your drum corps,
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay. And then do all your members come from your area or all over?
we actually, for as small of a group as we are, we probably have the widest geographic footprint with members coming from as far away as California, Colorado, and here in New Mexico. But also, we have members from Florida. We have members from New Jersey, New York, Maryland, Michigan,
Wow.
Ohio. So we're a little bit all over the place.
And then what is the process you guys take to like form the show with your very um limited rehearsal schedule?
It usually we put a priority on music over marching and visual. That's another way where we're a little bit more accessible. We don't put a lot of demand on uh, physical movement because
Okay.
we have members of all different ages, all different backgrounds, and yeah, so we try to make it focused on the musicality and not so much on the heavy visual. So that means we can do a lot more away from the group, as individuals to get prepared for the show, and that's where our final rehearsal on championship weekend is really just about putting the whole ensemble together. It's focused entirely on the group mentality at that point because by that point everyone should have done their homework all season long.
Oh, okay, cool. And do you guys go on tour by chance then?
We don't. We actually had looked about doing possible other performances throughout the year, but it's not always feasible, with people that come from all over the country because every event is basically its own major trip. So
Okay.
at least as of right now, we don't tour. We just get together just at the end of the year.
Oh wow, that's really cool. What was your inspiration behind creating um Phoenix?
Well, that's actually a funny story because what we are now is nothing like how we started. At the time, I was working as a volunteer for a drum corps in Florida, an all age corps. And, there were some tough times going on. There needed to be a lot of reorganization done with that organization. And in the interim, while we knew we couldn't sustainably field a full time drum corps at the time, we actually started Phoenix as a WGI Winds group during
Oh
the first
wow.
year
Okay.
that circuit was enacted. So we actually, I believe, we were the first independent Winds group to actually take the floor when WGI Winds was created. So yeah, and we were A class champs for the Orlando Regional in Florida
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
because that's something a lot of people may not realize is that we were actually founded in Central Florida. We
Okay.
were there for a few years before relocating out to New Mexico about 2 years ago now.
Okay. And then what caused you to move up to New Mexico?
Really, it was more of a choice for my family. We
Okay.
needed to make a change, and we picked up and moved out here to find somewhere where, for lack of a better word, where we could make more of a difference. Florida has historically been difficult for the drum corps
Hmm.
activity. Where we are based now in southwestern New Mexico, there is a hunger for an accessible and affordable program for students in the area. We don't have much out here.
Oh,
But
okay.
fortunately, over the past year or so, we've made connections with all of the local high school bands.
Oh,
We
nice.
now operate in conjunction with a drumline program at the local college, Western New Mexico University. So
Okay.
we have been gaining a lot of traction within the local music education scene, and that's allowing us. We're pleased to announce that this coming year for 2025, we're looking to bring a WGI Winds group back to the floor, as well as an indoor guard and a percussion ensemble.
Oh wow, that is fantastic. I wanted to ask you what your plans were because I've been watching your Facebook and you've been hinting at a very big new changes for this season. So that's really cool.
We found that whereas we were in a very saturated area where drum corps was difficult, but the indoor activity took up a lot of students' time, we have found success out here in the sense that, like I said, there are students that want to do more. But we also acknowledge that New Mexico is, by and large, one of the poorer states in the country.
Okay.
It is difficult to find funding, but we have found a lot of grassroots support here in our local community. There are, like I said, there are students here who want something to do. There are so many people in our community who have been so pivotal in helping us get support locally. So we're really excited about the changes that are coming on, the opportunity to provide some new ensembles, reach more students. We even have a program hopefully coming to the works in the next couple of months that I'm very passionate about. It's something I've been striving for about 10 years, which is a beginner percussion group for elementary students that we're calling Crash Boom Bang, which
Oh, that's
is it's
awesome.
all about getting elementary school students started toward percussion, drumline, learning how to read music, basic technique, and just have some fun. And we do that with buckets and trash cans and all kinds of fun implements.
Man, that is really incredible. Can you take me through the process of how it is starting getting these groups off the ground and really established in New Mexico?
Well, that's the thing is a lot of people, we've been surprised to realize that a lot of students, they would love to have opportunities. There's just been a vacuum where there's not been anyone or any group to provide those activities.
Okay.
So becoming rooted well within the school program here. I'm in my first year out here as an elementary music teacher, which is brand new territory for me, having worked in drum corps for the better part of the last 20 plus years, 30 years. And now to be working with elementary students is a strange new world for me, but it's
Hmm.
been very rewarding because we have them coming up now. And I feel very honored and privileged to say that at this point, I am able to work with students in our area from kindergarten all the way through college and beyond, which is just absolutely amazing. And I'm so excited, and I'm looking forward to everything that's going to be coming down as these programs grow and build year over year. There hasn't been any youth music education in this area for at least the past 6 years or so, since before the COVID pandemic.
Hmm.
So it's really exciting to have an elementary program starting again. Like I said, we've received a ton of support from the schools and from the community. The drum line at the college has been so well received. We're starting a pep band there. So yes, so many projects in the works right now, and just lots and lots of great opportunities for our local area.
Wow, that is really cool. Like, I just wanted to touch on Soundsport, but now I'm like, this is really awesome because, like, you're bringing your love for music into the lives of kid, all age, all ages, and it's incredible, and that gives me hope, and it's cool because I love to see newer groups come into the area and just music expand and explode like and bring the love of music to people's lives, and it's incredible.
Absolutely. Like I said, it's an honor and a privilege for me. Music, honestly, music education. I have quite a few music teachers who literally saved my life when I was growing up.
Mm.
The band room was a safe place for me. Drum corps was like going to drum corps practices when I was a kid, especially in my turbulent teenage years. That was like an escape that I desperately needed.
Mhm.
And for me, it feels very rewarding to be at this point in my life and to be able to try and strive to be the music teacher that I needed when I was a student.
That is awesome. Wow. That is really cool. So, do you think you're gonna have a lot of kids for in the summer then for the drum corps thing, or are you gonna try
I
and keep that small?
well, see, that's the thing. Right now, with the way these programs are gaining traction, there's really no telling what might happen in the next year or two. We're trying, of course, at the corporate level to manage sustainable growth, meaning while it's very exciting to have lots of opportunities, we have to be very careful not to stretch ourselves too thin or grow too
Okay.
fast in a way that's unsustainable for us. So we are taking things one step at a time, really evaluating everything we're trying to do. For example, those new groups coming out for indoor season, we're going to stay primarily local. Like there's no ambition to go and strive to get to Dayton in year one. I will say WGI has been very gracious this year in opening up wins groups that either haven't been out in a while or are new to the activity, can go to a regional for free,
Oh
which
wow.
is
Okay.
which is a huge opportunity, and that's one of the reasons that actually prompted us to want to start those groups for our local students. Being able to, for us in Southwest New Mexico, a pretty reasonable trip to Phoenix regionals isn't out of question at all.
That's cool. So, how are you going about forming the team that you have around you for all these other groups?
It's again, we're very local, and we are, I don't want to say, I don't want to make it sound like we're out in the middle of the desert, but we are fairly remote. I mean, most of the towns around here are a good bit away. If we want to get to a slightly larger city, it's an hour drive. If
Oh
I want to
wow.
get
Okay.
to Las Cruces, a bigger city, that's a 2 hour drive. Um, for me, for us, where we are in the little corner of the state we are in, believe it or not, while Albuquerque is in our state, the two closest major airports to us are either in Arizona or Texas.
Oh wow. Okay.
So that's kind of where we are, and that's one of the things that uh, can be a challenge in starting something in such a relatively remote area, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Any trip we take is a bit of a trip. But
Yeah.
like I said, managing growth where, say, taking a trip to for a weekend to Phoenix, that's not unheard of. Taking a trip the other direction to West Texas, that's not unheard of. El Paso's not that far away from us.
Oh, okay.
And even then, things we're looking at for the future, because there are some great programs nearby. I mean, like I said, Crossmen are over in Texas, Genesis is over in Texas, the Blue Knights are in Colorado right above us. There's a battalion out in Utah. They're doing great. So yeah, there's a lot. Oh, and then we have the academy over in Arizona. So there are lots of corps nearby
Yeah.
that where the tour stops that may be out of state for us, but still not totally unachievable. So
Okay.
there are things to look at for the future, for sure.
Oh, okay. Are you just gonna potentially look into going to into all age with a new partnership, or is that like are you gonna stay sound sport?
I will say for now, what makes the most sense for Phoenix, the way we're currently operating, is to stay in sound sport and continue to do what we do and just do the best we can at that. However, with new opportunities starting up, I'll never say never about either say open class or all age, depending on what kind of students we're able to grow and attract here.
That's cool. That's really neat. What is the judging process of sound sport?
It's fairly straightforward. There's typically three judges, and they're looking at three very broad categories related to music and visual and effect. We always try to, like I said, weight ourselves a little bit heavier on music and effect if we can generate it. Um, so typically for us, we're at a little bit of a disadvantage when it comes to the visual score. However, we have seen over time that you don't have to be marching a full scale 6 to 5 drill to score well in either the visual or effect categories in sound sport. It's really about how you're able to communicate with the audience more than anything else.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the DCI DCA merger?
It's strange for me. It's strange for me. Like I said, I grew up. I've been involved with DCA since the early '90s when was getting my start in local senior corps. I know we don't call them that anymore, but they did at the time. um, I've been involved in DCA for the better part of 3 decades, more or less, and so it's a little strange to kind of go to different places and see a different banner. I honestly, I'll say I'm cautiously optimistic about the potential.
Oh,
I love
okay.
the idea that historically, while DCA and the all age activity has primarily been in the Northeast because of accessibility to shows, really, it
Mm-hmm.
was very hard for any group outside of that region to succeed long term. Although a few have made a really good run of it. I mean, CV, formerly the Corvettes, have been around for quite some time. I was in Allentown the first time they came to DCA championships. The Renegades as well did a really great run for a while there. And the Kilties were always popular up in the Midwest. Governaires are doing great up there now.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota Brass is making their way back to the field. They were a great core
Yes.
back in the day, and I saw them at Soundsport this past year, and they were amazing. So they're well on their way back to where they were.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what these other groups doing that are coming into sound from sound sport to all age. I'm excited to see what they're gonna do this year.
I'm hoping for big things. I'm hoping that it makes it, like I said, it makes the availability of all age outside of the Northeast more feasible. I'd love to see groups, California, the Pacific Northwest, down here in the Southwest where we are.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, there's some great Midwest corps who've been around for a long time, but it's hard to believe that, like, right now we don't have an all age corps coming from Texas.
I know.
You would think that would be an obvious one. Florida, again, I lived in Florida for the better part of 10 years, and there's so many drum corps alumni down there. The idea that it's been so hard to sustain an all age corps down there is crazy. Although Fusion Corps from New Jersey did just
Yes.
make their announcement about
Mm-hmm.
relocating to Central Florida, that's a big move. And
I'm excited to see how they do. I'm anxious and excited to see that.
I hope things go well for them. Like I said, having run a sound sport team in Central Florida for 10 years, I can tell you it is tough. Florida's tough. And it's always been funny to me. One thing we do well in Florida, we export more kids to DCI than most other states. The biggest states are California, Texas, and Florida, really,
Mm-hmm.
as far as generating talent to go into the DCI ranks. So you'd think with all that talent coming out of Florida, you'd think we could have at least one drum corps full time.
Yeah. Why is it so hard to keep a core going down in Florida?
Well, there's a lot of things that play into it. Some of the drum corps of the past definitely made things harder. Uh, I hate to say this, but it's been historical for drum corps. A lot of corps that were poorly run would do things where, say, they would move into an area, get support, use up all the resources, burn all the bridges, and then move on.
Mm.
And kind of like a swarm of locusts.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's unfortunate, but all those burned bridges, even all this time later, made it difficult to pave the way to make good relationships in schools, um, in the communities. A lot of people that were burned over the years, and it's not just in Florida, but also we've had weather in Florida that was never very cooperative. All the attempts we've had to keep a drum corps show full time on the tour in Florida always get taken away, and I'm assuming it's because it always rains every time. It always will, and unless we put ourselves in a dome stadium like in like Tropicana, except that doesn't have a roof anymore because of Hurricane Helena. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
you can see there's a lot of challenges at work in Florida. We have challenges out here in New Mexico. They're just much different.
Mm. Yeah, I bet. What are some of the challenges that you face out in New Mexico?
Weather plays a part. I mean, the summers are hot. We are in what's considered the high desert, so it's a mountainous terrain. It's high, it's dry, thinner air. Um, I know right now where I'm at, we're about 6,000 feet above sea level.
Oh, okay.
So the same kind of challenges that corps like the Blue Knights might struggle with, being high up in the air in Denver. I remember troopers going out there. It was a similar thing. Being high up in the air being thin, it's tough for training and it's tough to
Mm,
adapt to. So that's hard for a lot of students. We have, like I said, for us, primarily financial issues. Um, we have small towns that are very poor. Let's just say it that say it the way it is. We have some
mm-hmm.
very poor communities. There's not a lot of money to be spent on the arts.
Mm,
Although New Mexico, I will say I have been thrilled as a resident for the past 2 years to realize that this state, while having limited resources, does prioritize education, does prioritize the arts. They're very, very good about that. Um, so while there's not a lot of resources to be had, I definitely feel like they prioritize the right things. And
that's
so that
awesome.
is very refreshing. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've been able to find so much support and success out here.
Okay, that's really cool. That's awesome. What are ways people can get involved with the indoor guard, indoor drum line, and the the drum corps?
So the drum corps is open to all ages. We have our Facebook page. We have a pretty simple website where you can go and register to get some more information. That allows us to get in touch with you. We can talk to you about what you play, what you do, what you're looking to get out of it, and what's required of you. Which, like I said, is very minimal financially and time wise. Like I said, we try to make it as accessible as possible. So, really, the easiest way to get involved with Phoenix is jump online, reach out to us, and start a conversation because we talk to everybody personally to
Okay.
kind of find out what they're looking to do with the organization. As far as the indoor programs, right now, we're offering those primarily to local students, scholastic students. But that's something that could possibly change in the future, depending on what the needs of our community really are. That's always been what drives our decisions when it comes to that sort of thing. With the drumline at the college, there's actually a very simple way. If you enroll at WNMU, you can become a student in applied percussion, and that is what we're running right now.
That's really cool. That's awesome. What are your thoughts on DCI as a whole as we move into the next 2025 season of DCI?
I I have to be very careful how I answer that, don't I? Um, I don't want to ruffle any feathers or cause any commotion. I will say DCI. What we love about DCI is having the ability to get out there in front of an audience and perform. Um, to be honest, the biggest show we ever did for all age before was nothing like performing at some of the bigger venues for DCI and
Hmm.
Soundsport. So that's been a huge opportunity for us just to be seen and to play in some of those really great venues. However, it is still rough being a smaller group Soundsport team. Of course, we don't get near as much airtime as the big drum corps, and
Hmm. Yep.
understandably so. But it's very difficult to grow when you still feel marginally visible.
Mm.
So it would be really helpful to have just a few more opportunities, or I could say even with Soundsport. One thing that I personally would like to push for is as I mentioned, uh, while there's limited rules, I actually would like less. especially with regards to what we can use as far as instrumentation, things like that. Because realistically, with all the different approaches that people are taking in sound sport and the way the corps at the top of world class are totally reinventing the activity year after year. It seems like every 2 or 3 years, somebody comes out with something that just absolutely goes box six and just blows everybody's mind and
Yeah.
totally changes the game. So
Yep.
the only way you can really encourage that kind of experimentation that leads to that kind of growth and development is to give us all the tools.
Hmm.
Let us play with whatever we want to try, and that's, I think, how you find the best practices, so to speak, where you lots of different groups can try lots of different things. The less homogeneity that we have in the activity, the more growth and experimentation you'll see.
Yeah.
I really think that's what we could use. I know it angers a lot of the older guard in drum corps activity. Uh, let's face it, people do not like change. It's one of those
Yep.
things as humans, we find our comfort zone. We know what we like, and we do not like change. But I
Oh
can tell
yeah.
you, flipping back to our indoor programs, the Indoor Winds program this year is entitled Change, and it's
Mm.
representative of everything we've been doing out here. This area is a microcosm of what I was just talking about, being resistant to change. There's a lot of old traditions out here. Um, and tradition is great. Tradition with meaning is great. But resistance to change because we've always done it that way, mm, that is a terrible reason to do anything, in my opinion.
Exactly.
We should never rest on our laurels. We should never just sit back and say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We should always be trying new things. How do we find what's best if we don't try?
Yeah. Yep. That's one thing I really like about this year, past year, 2024, and how Blue Coats, their show, there changes everything, and they push the envelope every single year of what can be done as a group and as a whole.
I will say blue coats have been one of the driving forces in our activity. And you're right. I mean, looking at even just over the last decade, the number of times that they have completely changed how we do what we do
Oh yeah.
is just purely incredible. And they're not alone. I mean, there are a lot of great innovative drum corps out there right now,
Hmm.
doing just amazing things. And, even going back years, cadets throughout the 80s and 90s were huge about the way they shaped the game. The Cavaliers in the 2000s, I mean, again, totally changing how we think about what we do and changing the game for the better.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see how like all age going to year two, how some of the groups are going to change up for this coming year too.
Well, I know probably one of the best decisions that the all age directors and leadership made was opting to have one finals performance and using the rest of the time they had available in the stadium for sound tests.
Yes, that was a
Um,
great idea.
for groups that have never really gotten the opportunity to play in a venue like Lucas Oil Stadium, man, what a huge opportunity and what a smart choice to get that chance to dial in and figure out how to make your sound work in that environment.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, you're right. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what these groups do going into next year. I believe that we will see a shift in how the all age activity designs,
Hmm.
because we've seen with now it's been quite some time we've been in Lucas Oil with DCI, and we've seen a lot of the world class corps have tailored their shows and designed in a way where their maximum effect will be designed for that listening environment, right?
Hmm.
So um, some of the shows that we see throughout the summer outdoors don't fully click until they get into a place like San Antonio or Lucas Oil or um, gosh, what's the other dome that we play in Atlanta when we were in Atlanta, at Mercedes-Benz. That was another great opportunity. Yeah, you see these shows in a whole new way when they're in the listening environment that they were ultimately designed for. And I think that's
Mhm.
smart, being able to
Oh
max
yeah.
out when you get at the right time. And I
Yeah,
think, like I said,
definitely.
I think that's going to drive how all age corps design going into next year, because if they know finals is going to be at Lucas Oil, I think you're going to see some things that may not totally resonate outdoors, but when they get into that finals environment, might just light up and click.
Yeah, exactly. As a smaller organization, what are your thoughts on them with the new requirement to hit the 40 members?
I've always been against the raising the minimum number rule, but this goes back to my history in drum corps, because um, I'll never be as famous as other people in drum corps, because I've decided to spend most of my career with small local drum corps, because I believe that at that local level, we we have the opportunity to help students that need that help. There's lots of people who are super talented and can do a lot of good in the activity. And it's great that some people may have 150 or 180 students over the course of a summer. But I'll take the summers I spent with 25 students, and because I know what those summers did for me, I know what those summers do for other students, and I wouldn't change that opportunity. That I wouldn't change that.
Yeah.
Um, but it's I struggled with it back in the 2000s. I was working with a small group from just south of DC in Virginia, and we at that time DCA instituted a 35 minimum rule, and it was tough for us because
Hmm.
on we had about 25 members, full time, fully committed, working hard all the time, and that 25 member group was pretty doggone good. The problem is, in order to get paid or judged or scored at a show, we had to have 35 members, which meant the entire summer, instead of spending the day of the show trying to, hone in our craft and perfect our show for the evening, it usually meant having to round up, you know, 6 to 10 parents or grandparents or cousins or fans, and putting a t-shirt on them and teaching them to shake an egg shaker or hit a triangle just so we could get the number that night or get paid. And
Hmm.
so that was difficult. It would have been, like I said, we would have been a much better drum corps if we were just allowed to compete with the 25 members we had.
Yeah.
And for us, I mean, we're, like I said, we, because of the way we do drum corps, we're happy to be at Soundsport because that fits for us right now. But if we were to make the jump to say all age, and say we couldn't attract the minimum number, if we were just shy of that minimum number, it's not a great, it's for us, it's not a great opportunity to have to choose between trying to find more people just to make it to the field or going to Soundsport, because we talked about how unique Soundsport is. And while I guess you could say something is better than nothing, it's not even remotely the same if you're trying to be a field corps.
Exactly.
So I don't love that you have an absolute minimum. I understand rules to limit groups from running away with a competition. I don't understand any rule that limits the boundaries of entry. To
Mm.
me, that is, it's counterintuitive to growth. The
Yeah.
more restrictions you place, the harder you make it to get to the field and do what you need to do. It just it's limiting. I don't know what else to say. Limits are limits. They don't. I
Exactly.
don't. I will never understand how that is meant to promote growth.
Hmm.
I've been told since the mid 2000s, when that rule came out, that show sponsors didn't want to pay for small corps to be there, or crowds didn't want to come watch a small corps. And I always thought, having been in those small corps, you weren't coming to watch us anyway. You were out in the lot watching the big corps warm up because you didn't want to come see us. So what do you care if we're there or not? We're
Yeah,
just trying to
exactly.
we're just trying to do our best. And I've loved some really great small local drum corps. I always tell people the story about in 2000, I went to DCI championships at the University of Maryland, and there was a small group from Washington D.C. right outside of town, and they were called, I believe they were called the McCullough Royal Knights. And this group blew my mind because I think they had all of 12 people in the entire drum corps. They had, as I remember, 9 horns, 8 of which were baritones, and 1 soprano.
Oh wow. Okay.
Now, I know a lot of people who would turn their nose up at that and say, "Well, that's embarrassing. That's not good for drum corps." Let me tell you, I respect the hell out of that group for not only having the guts to go out there and perform, but don't you think that with 8 baritones and 1 soprano, you have to be very, very creative in how you score for a group like that, right?
Hmm.
So I respect every group that's willing to go out there and do the work and make this activity we love come to life. I don't care. Somebody has to finish first. Somebody has to finish last. I don't think that should have anything to do with how many people you can recruit.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I hope the smaller groups can hit that minimum. I know for some it's gonna be hard though.
I'm worried because I saw the numbers for some of the groups that were out on the field last year, and when they announced this change, I thought, you know, that potentially could affect 4 or more of the groups that were there last year.
Yeah.
So again, if the end goal is growth, potentially having fewer corps be able to come to the field, doesn't that feel a little bit like the antithesis of growth?
Yeah. A little bit. Yeah. It does. It does.
But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I'm excited for this season and see where it goes and everything.
I approach every season the same way, cautiously optimistic.
There you go. Definitely. Any closing thoughts as we finish up the podcast about drum corps or Phoenix as a whole or anything?
I love this activity. I always have. Uh, we were just having a conversation because we had a couple of state band championships with our high school band, and we were on the road a lot over the last. Well, we call it. Everyone calls it Bandtober for a reason. The
Hmm.
entire month of October, we're basically on the road every weekend.
Yeah.
And so we had a lot of conversation. We were talking about, shows that we love from the past, shows we'd love to do in the future. Just that kind of, we're winding down the season kind of chat where it's like, I wonder what we should do next kind of thoughts. And
Hmm.
we listened to some source material. And, I'm not ashamed to admit that I listen to shows that I love from years past. I listen to material I'd love to play in the future. And I love that it makes me feel things. I love that
Mm.
it makes me feel angry or makes me cry or makes me laugh. Uh,
Hmm.
Anything to give me a reaction. When I stop feeling that kind of reaction from drum corps, I think that's when I'm probably ready to retire.
Mm.
But until then, what's the old quote from the legend? I'll retire when the first shovel full of dirt hits my face. You know,
Yeah.
so I'm in this for the long haul. This is my life. For as far as Phoenix goes, we'd love to have an influx of new membership this year. I can't really speak about what's coming down the pike, but a lot of the chatter that's been going on the web, and especially with the recent announcement from Jersey Surf, uh,
Hmm.
there's been a lot of talk about how this activity really needs that little bit of levity, that's more focused on crowd entertainment. Jersey
Yeah.
Surf, prime example. In the all
Yep.
age world, the Governaires have always been a prime example of that. But in the past, the Bridgemen, Velvet Knights, cores like that, we just don't have them very much anymore.
Hmm.
I am pleased to say that if you're one of the people I'm speaking out to the drum corps universe there. If you're one of the people who feels like we need to have a drum corps like that again, you should probably get in touch with us. We
Yeah.
have something really special in store for 2025. And that's all I can really say right now. But yeah, it's if you're one of the people that really enjoyed Velvet Nights, Bridgman, Jersey Surf, that kind of style, we should talk.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So yeah, it's other than that, we're our season literally ended on November 2nd. So the new season is 3 days old for us.
Wow.
We're already hard at work.
That's awesome. That's really cool. All right, Arlo, thank you for coming on, and I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me. Really, really great talking with you.
Oh, you're welcome.